Good afternoon, class. I thought I'd give a, brief lecture on the next essay. I know y'all are finishing up the descriptive paper, the descriptive essay, essay two, which is due this Sunday by 11:59 via the Blackboard Dropbox on the 13th of February. And essay three deals with persuasion. So you're trying to convince or persuade your particular audience or reader on a particular topic. I don't know if some of y'all have already had a chance to look at the essay three topics because they're in your weekly folders for this week. Pretty much after Sunday, that's sort of our focus for the next couple of weeks is the essay three and persuasion. You still have a little bit of time. I know some of y'all have been sending me essay two drafts. If you can get those in, the earlier the better. I probably wouldn't try to wait until Sunday to send me drafts because that's going to be kind of too late. I would recommend that you try to get as much in maybe before 6 o'clock Thursday if possible. I will check Friday throughout the day, but you can always utilize smart thinking, which I sent the information about that a couple weeks ago. So that's another thing, you can use them and you can send me drafts at the same time, which should be helpful. Um, if you haven't noticed, your essay, pretty much everything is up to date as it relates to your grade. So whatever it shows as your weighted total, that's what you currently have in the semester. As we head through the month of February, your grade is probably going to, sort of increase, decrease, that type of stuff. Sort of expect that. Um, what I would suggest when we get to week 8, which is basically midterm, if you have a 69 or lower, which is a D or lower, then you probably want to do a little bit of soul searching because the last 8 weeks of the course, I wouldn't say is any more challenging, or I guess what I would say is not any more difficult, but it is sort of a challenge. It becomes time consuming when you get into the research paper element of the course. So after midterm, we will start getting into the research aspect of the course. There's really 3 elements that go with the research paper. And, keyword is research. You're going to have to go to the library. You're going to have to go online. You're going to have to go to Galileo. You're going to have to go to the databases. You're going to have to put in the time. Um, that's something I can't do for you because everybody's going to have a different research paper topic. And you're going to need to get 6 sources for that particular essay, which would be essay 5. So if you look, we got essay 3 coming up. We have a quick essay 4, which is a process essay, like a week after essay 3 is due. And then we get into the research paper, which we pretty much take the rest of the semester after week 8 devoted to the research paper. Now, there's a couple more quizzes in between there, and of course, you have a final exam. That's a Proctor U exam. We will talk a little bit more about that probably before spring break, or at least definitely after spring break, which that'll be the first week of April. So again, what I would suggest is if your grade is a 69 or lower by the time we get to, the second week of March, you probably need to worry a little bit. Because I have to double check the syllabus, but I think the research paper, proposal and annotated bib collectively, it's all worth about 25%, 20 or 25% of your grade. So it's a good chunk of your grade. And if you kind of mess up on something along the way, you're going to start seeing your grade drop fast, like weekly fast. I've seen folks with a 93 go from a 93 to a 53 in a matter of 3 weeks. And it's not a fun feeling because by the time we get to the middle of April, we just don't have enough assignments for you to bring the 53 or the 63 really up. So that's why I would say if you don't think you can If your grade is really low by the time we get to midterm, you probably want to drop. There's a few folks in there right now in the class. If you look and see your grade, some of y'all, I mean, the grade is, I have some A's and B's and C's, but also I think I have some D's and F's already. So if you're D and F already, that's not going to be good because we're not even midterm yet. So you may want to think about dropping now just because you have a D or F. I mean, clearly, if you got a 12 or a 35 or a 42 in the class right now, you probably want to drop because it's going to be hard to pull that grade even up to a 70 heading forth. All right, so for the most part, I was pleased with the essay one, being it's your first essay. It was the narration essay. If you check, I left comments on your actual paper. You should go back and look at some of those. Some of y'all are not following the correct MLA format because you need a header. You need a proper, catchy essay title. You can't just call it essay one or narration. You got to actually give it a title that reflects the writing to come, and that needs to be centered. Some of y'all gave me cover pages, which I don't understand. APA uses cover pages, but because we're using MLA, we don't use a cover page. It's just really a wasted page for us. And some of y'all are not putting your last name and page number in the top right-hand corner of every page. So again, early on, I think it was week 1, I did a video about how in your Microsoft Word, you already have a MLA format template set up. You just have to go back and kind of erase. It kind of tells you what you need to put. If you didn't get a chance to watch that video, you can always do a Google search of MLA 9 and read through that, or you could go to YouTube and watch some of the videos there. But that's part of the issue why some of y'all lost some points was the format, because it was really jacked up throughout the whole thing. The other reason why some of y'all might have lost points was the proofreading and editing stage, right? The spelling, the grammar, the sentence structure, the organization. If you are not using smart thinking to proofread your paper, you probably want to do so for essay 2, especially if you didn't get a really good grade for essay 1. I'm kind of back. Each day is a little bit better as it relates to recovering from COVID. I don't feel like I felt, 2 weeks ago, obviously. So you have time. Like I said, I wouldn't wait necessarily to the weekend to start sending me drafts. But, between now and Thursday or now and Friday, if you have essay 2 drafts, please send them. Send me a draft and send Smart Thinking a draft. That way you have 2 people with 2 sets of eyes looking at your work. And whatever Smart Thinking misses, hopefully I catch, and whatever I miss, hopefully Smart Thinking catches. We're both free to use. I would utilize that, especially if you didn't get a good grade for essay 1 and you want to get a good grade for essay 2. So, and use the spell and the grammar check on your Microsoft Word. Use Grammarly. Use some of these free grammar and online spell checkers. The more resources you can use to help improve your grammar and your spelling, and the more people that can read your paper, the better the grade should be, and the better your writing will improve over time. Because again, really the whole purpose is by the time we get to week 16 is that your writing has improved over the last 15 weeks. Meaning you can write a proper narrative essay. You can write a proper descriptive essay. You can write a proper persuasive essay, process essay. You can do a research paper. Because no matter where you go, if you transfer or whatever your next class may be, if you have to take another English class, pretty much from here on out, the English classes, you're going to have to write a lot of essays, and you're probably going to have to do at least 1 or 2 research papers possibly in those English classes. Whether you go to Valdosta, whether you transfer to Georgia Southern, whether you go to CCGA, whether you go out of state, if it's an English class and if it's a upper level class beyond 1101, you can guarantee to at least have to write 1 major research paper in that English class, sometimes multiple ones. If you're not taking another English class, if you're taking a psychology class, chances are you're going to have to write a research paper in that class. If you're doing a history class, you may have to write a research paper. Even nursing here at Coastal Pines, you have to write essays and research papers. So what you learn in this class, in other words, is going to help you in future classes where you have to write, do essays, and do research papers. The other thing, if some of y'all have kids, as you know, once they start getting into middle school and high school, they're going to have to also do research papers and write essays. So you can teach them what you learn in this class, how to do it properly, so they're not banging their head on the desk, not knowing how to do it. So it's sort of a win-win. You can avoid having to get a high-priced tutor because writing tutors go anywhere from $25 an hour on up. I know because I used to be a writing tutor, and because of my master's degree, you can kind of charge a good bit if need be. Some of the better ones are kind of a higher price. So if you, especially in this economy, if you're not wanting to pay $40, $45, $60 an hour for somebody to help your kid write an essay, then if you learn it here, you can teach them. So what I'm going to do is right now share my screen so you can see the actual essay topics. And we're going to talk about these a little bit. So as you can tell, it's basically the same parameters as it relates to MLA 9, double space, Times New Roman 12. Essay 3 needs to be 4 pages or 1,000 words, right? No more, no less. So if you're at the end of page 3 and you have 1,000 words and you said everything you need to say, stop. If you get to the end of page 3 and only have 875 words, then you need to go to page 4 and fill up the difference. 2 pages is not going to work here, and 6 pages is too much. So try to keep it with 4 pages or 1,000 words. So again, I give you 10 topics. If you don't like these topics, you can always do a persuasion essay topic search in Google. You will probably find a lot of web pages on that first page. Click on one of those and see what kind of topics pop up and see which ones may pop up that you can kind of narrow it down to one that you really want to do. The other thing is, if you have a persuasion essay topic in mind that's not on the list, please run it by me before you get started drafting, because I need to know sort of your direction with it. I need to know if you're going to have enough to talk about that's going to give you the 4 pages or the 1,000 words, because nothing's frustrating more than if you think of a good topic and it sounds good on paper, but you start typing and you realize at the end of page 2, you can't really say anymore. Now you're stuck because it's 2 pages, right? It basically needs to be 4. And at that point, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board and find either a different topic or see what you can do as it relates to possibly doing a little bit more research on the topic that you chose that you thought could give you 3 or 4 pages. So if you look here, and these are the 10 topics. Is it better to see a movie in a theater or stream it at home? If if you realize the last 2 or 3 years, COVID, especially in 2020, kind of shut down, the world in a lot of ways, and couldn't really go to theaters. Not until recently, you could start going back to theaters. But a lot of people were streaming and have been streaming really before COVID, right? Because I mean, there was Hulu, there was Netflix. Now we have Peacock. We have some of the Showtime and HBO, Disney Plus. So a lot of people, because of COVID, got sort of used to streaming it at home. And again, you want to kind of persuade your audience of what movie experience is the better one. Is it better to go to the theater and spend, depending on how many people you're going with, if you're going with a family, you and your wife and 2 kids, it could be nearly $50 or more. Is it better to spend the money and go to the theater and have that experience for 2 hours? Or is it better to, stay home, save $50? You're still paying for the streaming services. Those can run anywhere between, depending on how many you have, $10, $12, $15. The price seems to be going up with Hulu and all that stuff lately. If it's a new movie that you're streaming that's also at the theater, you're probably going to have to pay for that. So that could run you anywhere from $20 just to stream it. But you're at home, and you don't necessarily have to worry about paying $20 for sodas and popcorn. You can make unlimited popcorn at your house, probably for less than $5. You can go to the store and get your own sodas, 12 packs, 24 packs, for $5 or $6, depending on your brand. You can have your candy. You can watch the movie in your pajamas. You don't necessarily have to get all dressed up. You have that opportunity to pause the movie and return to it. There's a lot of different variables for both. Go into the actual movie theater. I mean, you have the surround sound. The sound system's a little bit better. You're surrounded with strangers, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, depending on the movie and depending on the people around you. There's just, sometimes there's more of an excitement to go to the theater. In a lot of ways, for some folks, just because you might not have been able to go in the last 3 years. So again, you want to kind of persuade your audience. You want to pick one side or the other and basically you're convincing me which one is a better viewing experience. Number 2 sort of deals with COVID too in some ways, because it says, is classroom learning better than online learning? Well, everybody in this class is online, and they're online for a reason. If you remember back in March of 2022, whether you were taking college classes or whether you were on, at the high school, everything sort of went online for the most part a good bit of that year because of COVID. Now, online learning hasn't been, we haven't started that in 2020. It's been around for several years before COVID. Some people like online learning because basically you have, a period of 7 days or so to get stuff in. You can log in pretty much 24/7. You can work school around your own personal schedule, especially if you work and have kids, or if you have other obligations outside of normal in-person class hours, which for most colleges, is from like 8 o'clock in the morning until about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. It could save gas, especially now that gas is starting to go up. There's a lot of different advantages, and it really depends on what type of learner you are. If you're one that really needs to be in class, like if it's a math class, taking college algebra online, some of y'all might have already taken that class. Some may be currently taking that. And if you're not really good at math, you're probably really frustrated, nearly 5 weeks into the semester, because you got to basically do the math. In a lot of ways, you got to teach yourself. Not to say there's not online videos. Your teacher may have lecture videos and offer tutoring hours, but at the end, you're using that Hawks learning program, and you're trying to figure out how to type the answer in correctly without getting it wrong. Where if you're in person taking the same class, you're still having to deal with the Hawks learning, but you have a professor up in front of the room who you can ask questions during that 75 minutes that you're in class. So again, there's benefits to both for certain people. Usually the younger generation, because they grew up with computers, they grew up with online stuff, they seem to enjoy and like the whole online experience more so than if you've been out of school for 20 or 25 years, because there's a lot that has changed as it relates to the technology in the classroom. So again, you want to sort of pick a side and convince me which one is the better of the two. Number 3 is really sort of a debatable topic. It's been a debatable topic for 20, 25 years now, I think. It pops up usually around election time. Is legalizing marijuana a good idea? So again, there's pros and cons to that. You would want to pick an idea or pick a side that you can convince me the good, or convince me why it would be a bad idea to legalize marijuana. Number 4, is there ever a good reason for war? If you've been listening and watching to the news the last several weeks, you realize that Russia and Ukraine are having sort of a conflict going on at their borders. There's been rumors of a war or an invasion between Russia and Ukraine happening. The U.S. has sort of been not necessarily involved up front, but they have had their opinions about if Russia does invade Ukraine, what some of the consequences may be coming from the United States. We've known for the last 20 or 25 years of the Middle Eastern wars, right? The war against terror as it relates to Afghanistan and Iraq. So again, you want to sort of pick a side and come up with really good convincing reasons. If there's ever a good reason to go, or you could take the opposite side and say, no, there's not a good reason to go, and give me, list 3 or 4 reasons why it would be bad to necessarily just go to war. And you can do that throughout your paragraphs. And momentarily, I'm going to show you sort of a template that you can sort of use based on an essay that somebody else wrote that shows how they outline their essay to get their final product. Number 5, should the drinking age in the United States be lowered to 18? Certain countries around the world, the drinking age is lower than 21. It is 18, or it could be 16 in certain places. So you'd have to kind of weigh out the pros and cons here and convince me which one would be better. Is it better to keep it at 21, or would it be beneficial to lower it to 18? Some folks think it should be actually raised a little bit because we know how certain people, even adults, are when they have too much alcohol or when they have a little bit of alcohol. So again, you want to sort of convince your audience there, is 18 a good number, or should it stay at 21? Or do you think it should, possibly be 25? Number 6, should high school graduates take a gap year before beginning their careers or going to college? And basically, a gap year is like a year off, maybe 2 years off. You get out of high school, you're 18 years old, you kind of really not, you don't really know what to do. For some of us, we're sort of lost as it relates to a career. Some of us are still sort of immature, and some of us just want to work. Right? We're tired. We've already had K through 12 grade. We just want to work and get a little bit of experience, maybe get some money under our belt a little bit, and then figure out what we want to do. Because a lot of us sometimes we just go with the crowd, right? Our friends are going to Valdosta, or our friends are going to Emory, or Mercer, or CCGA, or Georgia Southern, and we tag along thinking we know what we want to do. But when we actually enroll in classes and realize, hey, Georgia Southern or even Coastal Pines or CCGA, this is not like high school, right? They're not necessarily going to hold our hands. They're not going to bug us for assignments. You either turn them in or you don't. They may not care so much about your attendance. You're either there or you don't. And for a lot of people, especially the ones that are young and immature, they go off to one of these party colleges, and before midterm, they've already have Fs in pretty much all their classes. They've been underage drinking, especially Georgia Southern. They have bars in just about every corner of that college. So they go and they get a PhD in Jack Daniels, and before before week 9, they're already flunked out all their colleges and they're on their way back home because they don't have any money, and there's just no way for them to pull themselves out to get a passing grade. So at that point, if they're on like a Pell Grant or a Hope Grant, their GPA is so low that they're put on probation. So it makes trying to go another semester kind of disastrous because you're basically going to have to retake those classes that you flunked out. So a lot of them just come back home and, live with mom and dad for a couple years before they really figure out what they want to do. Number 7, are workers more productive at home? Again, sort of relating to COVID. When we had to do that extended quarantine at home or lockdown, a lot of folks started doing, flexing their time, working from home, not going to the office as much. And some people have, over the last 2 years, have really adapted to that. And a lot of companies have really took off with that and say, hey, let's work from home. There's certain jobs that you can't necessarily do that, like restaurants, hospitals, that type of stuff, because you can't really serve food virtually. You still have to have a cook. You still have to have a server. So, a lot of people lost work or lost their jobs because of the lockdown, because nobody was able to come out or wanted to come out. And you just can't work from home if you're a server at a Ruby Tuesdays. So the whole deal with this work from home started to become more popular. And a lot of people now are basing their career choice on that ability if something like this COVID stuff ever happens again, would they be able to keep their job and work from home? And a lot of people, a lot of potential employees are, passing up work because a lot of companies are not offering the whole work from home thing. And that could be part of the problem why we have such a work shortage too, because a lot of people want to be safe in the comfort of their own home. Now, whether you're really productive or not, that's another question. Because again, working from home is sort of like that deal with number two, um, taking college classes online. If you're self-driven, if you're a gun ho and don't need a lot of direction or guidance, then and you know your job, then working from home is probably a lot better. Now, if you have a lot of kids that are younger and you got to share computers because they have to get on to Google Classrooms or something with their school or whatever, then it becomes kind of chaotic because you're not really productive. Or you may say, well, I'm going to work, but you turn on TV and you watch a movie for 2 or 3 hours. So you get distracted very easily at home too. So again, you want to sort of convince me which one you think would be best. You can use personal experiences as examples. If you were sort of caught up in that whole deal of work from home or you couldn't work from home type deal, but you just want to pick a side and have a stance on that particular position. 8, should religion be a required course in school? Now, most religion courses that you see, we offer a course here called World Religions. Most religion courses are at the college level, but we're starting to see a little bit more in high school, and they're either electives, like they are pretty much here, or they're sort of like a after school type deal, like a special class or something. So again, um, you would want to pick a side and see where you stand as it relates to that. Number 9, does boredom lead to trouble? Well, if you're a young adult or an older teenager, sometimes that can, depending on the crowd that you're in and depending on what's going on, boredom can lead to trouble. But again, that's my opinion. Other people may have a different opinion that boredom would not lead to trouble. Again, you want to convince me of either way. And then number 10, is torture ever acceptable? As it relates, that one can closely relate to number 4 as it relates to the war, waterboarding and that type stuff. Is there ever a good reason to use torture? So again, in a nutshell, you got 10 topics here. Again, if you don't like these 10 topics and you have something different, please let me know before you get started. This particular paper, like I said, is not due until the 6th of March. So if you look, today's the 8th of February. You do have some time. You have next week, the week after that, and then what's remaining there. So you have about 3.5 weeks to work on this particular paper. The earlier you begin essay 3, the better, because then you can start sending me and Smart Thinking multiple drafts, and we can give you feedback earlier, so you can correct the areas that you need to correct, and get a really good grade on this essay as well. So what I would probably suggest is, if you're at a good position with essay 2, meaning you've been sending drafts, you've been getting help, you've been editing and proofreading, you're getting into the point where you're really finalizing it and ready to turn it in because the Dropbox is up there, you can go ahead and get started brainstorming and drafting Essay 3 once you feel like you're in a really good position and have submitted Essay 2 in. So again, really, online classes, the key is time management. If you are a procrastinator, then online courses are not your friend, because you wake up Monday, oh, I check Blackboard, stuff comes up Monday, it rolls on to Tuesday, you say the same thing, and before you know it, it's Saturday, and something is due in 24 hours. So again, time is not really on your side if you're a procrastinator. Some people can work really well under pressure, but it's been my experience that most students don't. So just be wary of your time, be able to manage it. If you work a little bit each day on stuff, that sort of helps as it gets later in the week. Because then, if you got 3 or 4 other classes with stuff due on a Sunday, if you work a little bit each week, you're not such in a rush of trying to get something done, 12 hours or 6 hours or 4 hours before a deadline. Let me minimize this and show you this particular. Now there's a handout also in your weekly folder. That's really good. But this is basically what I mean by outlining. If you don't really outline, if you didn't outline Essay 1, I hope you're outlining Essay 2. If you're not really doing a lot of outlining for Essay 2, you probably need to do an outline for Essay 3 just to sort of keep things in order so you're not all over the place. And this particular outline goes to an essay that talks about the main topic here is Toronto. Toronto should pass a stricter anti-smoking bylaw. So that's this particular student's topic. So as you tell through this outline, they have the introduction paragraph. We have an attention getter, right? Usually that first sentence, you're trying to hook your reader in. And then we have the thesis statement, which is usually that last sentence of your introduction paragraph, which is basically going to tell your stance and your main idea throughout the entire 4-page paper. So if you look at this particular thesis statement, it's one sentence. It is kind of lengthy, but it is one sentence. And being that it's a statement, it needs to end in a period, right? So be careful of that, because thesis statements are not thesis questions. They never have question marks. There's always a statement, an opinion, a point of view, a particular stance that you're taking, that you're going to sort of persuade or argue throughout your 4 pages. So in this case, the writer says, the passing of an anti-smoking law in Toronto restaurants is beneficial for 3 important reasons. The overall image of the city would benefit, bars and restaurants would be much cleaner, and the health risk caused by working in a bar or restaurant would decline. So this particular writer has listed 3 reasons that they're going to try to persuade the audience on, and they give you those 3 reasons right up front. So each one of these reasons is going to be a body paragraph. That's going to basically, it's going to be the meat and potatoes of this person's essay. So if you look at the first body paragraph, we have the first sentence of that body paragraph, the topic sentence, which each one of your paragraphs need to have a topic sentence. It should be 1 sentence in length. It should be just like a thesis statement, end with period. And basically that topic sentence is sort of like a mini thesis, because it's still connected to the main idea of your paper. But within that particular body paragraph, you're talking about what you have only in your topic sentence of that first sentence of that body paragraph. So in this case, first, when a city passes a law that makes it a cleaner place, image portrayed by that city to others improves. So as you can tell, that's the topic sentence. And then the author gives some supporting points, basically 3 points that they plan on discussing in that paragraph. And as you can read here, that's what's going to fill up that first body paragraph. So more tourists would come to Toronto and boost the economy. More Torontoans would frequent bars and restaurants. Other governments will recognize Toronto as a healthy city and follow suit. So when the writer gets to the second body paragraph, again, we have a second topic sentence. Second, when restaurants and bars have a reputation of being clean, more people frequent them. So again, that's going to be that first sentence of that second body paragraph. And then we have 3 additional reasons that this writer is going to flesh out in that body paragraph. Majority of patrons prefer smoke-free dining because they don't smell like smoke. No smoking makes bars cleaner, which makes the city cleaner. And smoke takes away people's appetites. So again, this person is going to be convincing me of why it would be better to have anti-smoking laws in the particular city of Toronto. Our third body paragraph, again, has a third topic sentence. Third, banning smoking will improve the health of those people who frequent or work in bars or in restaurants. Yes, because you wouldn't have the secondhand smoke. And again, we have 3 reasons. Asthma sufferers can visit restaurants. If you have breathing problems, if you have asthma, you don't want to go into a smoky place, right? It's going to cause you problems. It's going to cause you to cough. It's going to be hard to breathe. You're just not going to want to visit, right? You're going to be wanting to stay home instead of going out. Number 2, people will not have to worry about complications that come with smoking, inhalation, cancer, emphysema, which is true, because anybody that's been around folks that have smoked for a long time, they usually develop that stuff. And you can too if you breathe that secondhand smoke in for long periods of time. And then the last point for body paragraph 3 would be patrons and employees will no longer have watery eyes and eateries. Now, again, this is sort of set up as a 5-paragraph essay. You may have to have additional paragraphs, right? You may have to have a 4th paragraph, a 5th body paragraph, depending on what your topic is, to be able to get the 1,000-word limit or the 4 pages. Conclusion, you're going to summarize, as it says here. The city should pass anti-smoking laws because the image of the city would be better, bars and restaurants would be cleaner, and the health risks to staff would decline. So basically, you're sort of restating your thesis in different terms. You're not giving me the same thesis again. You're using synonyms, antonyms possibly, to really sort of change or rewrite that particular thesis statement that you started off with in your introduction. And then you might want to end your essay with a memorable statement, right? Like this particular person does. Smoking is a habit that affects cities in every way. And by passing an anti-smoking law, the city of Toronto will not only better itself, but it will also set in motion a precedent for all cities across the country to follow. So if one starts to do it and sees positive effects, then other cities may follow suit. And if you look, we go from this student's outline, right, what they plan on talking about throughout their 4-page essay, let's say, to the actual final draft. Now, again, this doesn't have the header like yours would. It doesn't have the last name and the page number, and it's not double spaced. But as you can tell, we have the introduction paragraph. This is sort of our hook or our attention getter. Here's our thesis statement. And it's basically coming right off of this outline that this person made. They're just filling in the blanks by building up the paragraphs. So as you can tell, here's our first body paragraph. This is our first topic sentence. And then we have our three major points throughout this particular paragraph. Again, paragraph 2, here's our topic sentence. The rest of the sentence are the supporting details that come from those three major points that the author wanted to convince the reader about why restaurants and bars have a reputation of being clean and more people frequent them. The third body paragraph, again, first sentence is your topic sentence. The remaining sentences are your supporting details that support that topic sentence, that convince your readers of why your particular stance is the right stance to take. And then we finish it up with our conclusion, with our memorable statement. So in the end, when you're trying to write the persuasion essay, think of yourself like a lawyer or a attorney on paper. You're convincing your audience, you're convincing me why whatever stance that you're taking on your particular topic is the better stance. That's basically what a persuasive essay does. We see a lot of persuasion in day-to-day life. We especially see it with political candidates. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, it really doesn't matter. You have two candidates that are trying to persuade you to come to the voting site to vote for them, but also possibly spend money for their campaign. When you're traveling down the road, you see billboards that sort of persuade you for a particular product or a particular stance. Late night, infomercials, when you see those commercials about feeding poor kids over in Africa or adopting a pet, they're trying to persuade you by pulling on your heartstrings to pick up the phone, call the number, adopt a child or adopt a pet, and really at the end, give them money. Because chances are the only thing they're going to do once you give them money is send you a picture. And they're going to basically want that money every month. Because chances are you're probably not going to get on a plane to go to Africa to try to hunt down that child that you're sponsoring. And number two, you're probably not going to get on a plane and try to find where that dog or cat or animal that you're trying to sponsor that could be anywhere in the world. Newspaper ads, magazines, a lot of times they use persuasive techniques in a lot of ways for you to purchase whatever product they're trying to sell. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a lot of these social media sites, they have ads. And ads are a good way to persuade you for one way or the other. When you go to the grocery store or when you pick up a sales ad, if you look at a sales ad for Publix compared to Winn-Dixie, compared to Walmart, don't really have sales ads. But if you look at the price of chicken from one place to the other, again, you're sort of comparing and contrast prices. But both companies are trying to persuade you that they are selling the best product at the best price. And, in the end, they want you to pick them so you can go and spend money, because you're not probably just going to go for the chicken. Once you're there, you're going to probably realize, well, I'm already at Publix. I got a good deal on the chicken. Instead of spending time and gas going to Walmart and Winn-Dixie for other deals, since I don't have to pick up a whole lot, I might as well just get it all here at Publix. And before you know it, Most of us know that Publix is a little bit more expensive than Winn-Dixie and Walmart, but you just dropped $50 um, at Publix, and really the only reason why you were there because the sales ad persuaded you to go and get their chicken because it's tastier, it's juicier, it's fresher than Walmart chicken, and it's a better price because possibly it's on sale that week. Um, Same thing when you go buy a car or truck. You got different automobile places with different sales, with different pitches, and they're trying to persuade you for your business. Um, Products, makeup, hair products. We live in a world that definitely now with internet, there's a persuasive um, atmosphere that is trying to captivate us because we are potential customers, buyers. We are a universal audience when it comes to the internet to pick one thing over the other. Um, so just keep that in mind. Persuasive techniques are all around us, whether you realize it really or not. They are. Um, I think for now, I think that's enough information. Again, if you have any questions, please email me. Next week, I plan on going a little bit more into what the next quiz would be. We would probably look at a couple more persuasive essays as models, just to ease some minds, maybe ease some fears. But again, as you get closer to finalizing essay 2, if you get to the point where you want to start sending me drafts of essay 3, please do so. The other thing is, like I said, I do in-person tutoring, generally Monday through Thursday in the Camden campus library, 8 to 9. If you're local in the area, if you want to do something in person, just email me and let me know that you're coming. If you don't live local in the area and you want to do something maybe like one-on-one or as a group, we can set up a Teams meeting, or we can do like I'm doing here, like a Blackboard Collaborate, where you can come and join and ask questions that way. It's just really going to be up to you because I know there's, nearly 25 students in our particular class, and it's just hard because we can't really enforce online chats where everybody has to show up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever the case may be, because everybody is spread out and has something different going on. So if you have something that, a particular time that you possibly want to do something virtual online where, we meet and kind of have a Q&A session, or if you just want to have an online tutoring session, just let me know, because Monday through Thursday, I basically have an in-person class from 9 o'clock to about 12:15, and then I do lunch, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have an afternoon in-person class from about 1 to 2:15. So really anytime after 3, Monday through Thursday until about 6, besides grading and preparing for next week's stuff, we can meet online if need be. Or, if the 8 to 9 o'clock doesn't work in person and you want to show up, between 3 and 6, Monday through Thursday, we can do something then too. You just have to let me know, because I don't read minds. I don't claim to read minds. I don't try to read minds. So if you're struggling with anything, please ask, because there's no stupid question. I've heard a lot of different various questions. I'm here to help. I don't judge people on stupid questions. So if you need the help, you really need to ask for it. All right. Otherwise, I hope you have a good rest of the week for week 5. And I hope week 6 is an even better week. Please stay healthy. Please email me. And until we have another lecture lesson, I will see you then. Have a good day.